We must start. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today, both obviously IRL here in Boston at PAX East, and of course everyone watching on stream at home. Hello, hello. This is Not Just Voices, How Voice Actors Became Developers. I am Matthew Kroll from Extra History and Extra Credits, but more importantly, next to me are the people of the hour of this panel that I will be moderating today. An illustrious group made from some of the industry's most talented producers, writers, and voice actors right here. So illustrious panel, if you would be so kind, maybe starting right here, go down the line, say who you are and what you've done on this wonderful game, Fading Echo.
Hello there, my name. Oh, hello.
Oh.
You have to push the button. There you go.
Wow, there we are. Hello. Hello, my name is Samantha Bayard. You might know me as Karlach in Baldur's Gate 3 or as Darth Null in Star Wars The Old Republic. Or if you've been playing... Yes, thank you. If you've been playing Marathon, USEC Coletti, a bad guy, not good guy. I actually come from, I'm a classically trained actor who's found themselves in video games, but that's a talk for another time. I'm sort of best known for this instrument here. Hello. I play One in Fading Echo, who is our lead character. And we've only got an hour, so I'm not going to go into that. Jasmine, please introduce yourself.
My voice doesn't sound nearly as good, nor am I nearly as impressive. But my name is Jasmine, that bronze girl Bular. I'm a professional writer in tabletop RPGs and video games. I am the writer for this game. There's a lot of lines of dialogue. Thank you, thank you.
And also one of the actors.
And also one of the actors. I play Sam's mom. Which is pretty great.
I mean, we're kind of gods, right? So it's not offensive.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
Hey, I'm Elise Marchouba. I'm the producer working on Fading Echo. I guess my previous experience is being a very, very big fan of these people on the panel with me.
Excellent.
No. List the
but this is about you.
This isn't your first game.
Okay, I've been working in the industry for about 11, 12 years now. I started in sports games, worked in a small indie studio called Samurai Punk, working on weird games about birds, killer robot vacuum cleaners, all the kind of normal stuff we have back in Australia. I moved to Sweden for a couple years. I worked at Avalanche, so the studio that did Just Cause, Rage, Mad Max, and I've been working on Fading Echo for the past 2.5 years in France.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So the reason we've gathered you here today is...
Fight to the death.
And
Finally.
I have spiders.
So the production of Fading Echo, and specifically all of your roles in it, is something that is a little bit, dare I say, unorthodox in the industry. It's not the process that you went through is... an extremely collaborative one, and we're going to get into sort of like all the different ways that worked. I guess I'd like to maybe even start with Elise going through like how you came to the project and then sort of cascading down like when you all got involved and how the initial like pitch of what was going to go on with this game and how the production would work sort of felt.
Yeah, because it's kind of non-traditional, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I joined the studio 2.5 years ago as probably, I think, the 5th employee. And at the time, so Fading Echo as an IP was originally built as a tabletop role-playing game. So it has a Bible that's like thousands of pages long.
I've read it. It is thousands.
I tried to read it. I didn't have time. Sorry, Manu.
So when watching somewhere on Twitch,
it's too late to fire me. We've recorded it now.
She did not read the Bible.
She flicked through the Bible.
I feel so bad that your French accents are so much better than mine, and I live there.
but you see, the accent's good. But can I speak French? No.
So yeah, it was when we were starting to work further on the project. So we did our initial prototypes, and once we started to write the game, we had our core mechanics, and we wanted to start building the world out and figure out which part of the Bible we were going to take to build our very first game. The goal is to build like a bigger IP around it, but we knew we were starting, and we had to start with something kind of small and, like we said, a very, very big Bible. And so when we started talking about who we wanted as a writer, it was really important that we had someone that understood the roots of it as a TTRPG, but also understood video games. So it was kind of like a unique combination of a writer that we were looking for. So that brought us to Jasmine.
Yeah, it's interesting because I didn't exactly understand the scope of what I was consulting on. And I think I've talked to you about this at length, and I'm sure you can relate to this, Matt, where you get an email, because I remember talking to you about it too and being like, is this a scam? Because the email was just so like not unassuming. It wasn't like we are a development studio working on a game. It was like, hello, we think you are very cool from the internet. We have a document. We would like to maybe have you consultant. And so basically I read like the entire, I was brought on as a consultant specifically for the IP Bible, which is work I've done extensively. So I've had credits in it because I consulted on the Marquette setting for Critical Role. I had done some narrative consulting for the Never After season of Dimension 20. I consult on a bunch of video games, which I can't talk about because of NDAs. So the IP consultant part of it, that made sense to me. But then for me, the rug pull was when it became like, will you come write for us? I was like, wait a minute. I haven't done that before. And they were just like, yeah, well, we can teach you that. That part's not hard because we think you understand our project and you understand what we're trying to do. And we want to morph that into like breaking story and writing dialogue. And I told them I was very excited about that. And I kind of came into it. And then they were like, well, we have a character that's like, that reminds us of you a lot. Will you voice her? And I said no, I think like 6 times. I said no for like 8 months. I was just like, I don't want to do it. Here's a list of names. And they would come back and be like, none of these are fitting. Can you please do it? And I was like, I don't want to do it. Here's a list of more names. And finally, Manu and Sylvain like broke me down. And I was like, fine. I will do voiceover for this project, even though I don't know what I'm doing and I don't like my voice. And then it became, well, who do you think could play your daughter, who's the main character of the game? And for some reason, just based off of like meeting you once and hearing your voice, I felt like it was you. And I don't know why. We don't have the same accent. But it was just one of those things where I was like, I think Sam could do it. And that's how I brought Sam on board.
So I got an email around this time last year, and I thought, this is a scam. It was like, do you want to be hello, we are former Blizzard devs. Would you like to be the lead in an indie game? We've got people from Critical Role, Jasmine Bueller's recommended you. Here's a pitch deck. Do you want to meet us? Maybe. Dude, I'm in. When you said, would you like to be the lead in an indie game? I was in. You don't, sure. So then,
it sounds like a scam though, right?
I did check the date. I was like, is it April 1st? Because it's too good to be true. You know, we audition, people have NDAs, they don't want to tell you what you're in. They certainly don't tell you what studio it is or even the significance of your role sometimes. But I did know you, and I thought maybe I need to tell Jasmine there's a scam. And it was you and Tanya DePass, I believe, that recommended me, which was really cool because again, this is our 2nd year anniversary of meeting at PAX.
Yes.
We first met on a panel in 2024, and I thank you. I'm glad I made a good impression. Thank you very much. And then they're in Lyon in France. It's not that far from London, so they met with me and my agent, and I felt like a movie star because you don't get this in video games. And it's turn up, here's an Excel spreadsheet, go. And that wasn't the experience. And I managed to take them to a nice bar, and they showed me that very first trailer. And I'm like, I'm in. How many times can I say? But, from what they described in terms of a little bit of the Bible versus then what they showed me and just the vibrancy and the anime quality, I was like, this is really cool. This is very different for me. And it was very exciting.
I think, like, what you're describing is like it is how I manage, because I think we're all still in shock and disbelief that our tiny little indie game has a cast consisting of like us, Matthew Mercer, Liam O'Brien, Sam Riegel, and Laura Bailey.
So far, I'm working on the rest of the cast of Critical Role. I'm not joking. I saw Ashley the other day and I went, come on!
And the way it panned out is I was at Critical Role for a different video game activation. It was for Elder Scrolls. So I was and I've already done the Doom one-shot with them and now Dispatch. So I was already kind of their video game TTRPG girly. And literally, before the game started, we're all sat there and I was just like, will you guys be in my video game? I wrote a video game. Will you be in it? And literally, like, they were so cool. Matt and Liam were like, yeah, I'll be in your video game. But that trailer did a lot of the heavy lifting for me because I was at a party where Laura Bailey was and we were sitting on, those like concrete blocks that mark like where you can park a car? We were sitting on there and I showed her the trailer.
So glamorous.
Yeah, I know. I showed her the trailer on my phone and she was like, well, I want to be in it too.
Aww.
And that's how we got Laura Bailey. And people don't believe us. They're like, they must be rich. We're not. We don't have any money. I'm so sorry. We're
Please
so
buy
broke.
the game, okay? And we can make more, and then we get a pay rise.
Please
That's how this
open
works.
Steam, wishlist the game. We're so broke. We're so indie. But people are always like, oh, they must have a crap ton of money. And really, it was just like
No,
friendship.
you had an extremely good script and a reputation and pedigree, I think.
Yeah. Well,
Yes, I made her cry.
God damn it. Sam.
sort of like on the note of just a bunch of friends coming together to do a cool project like this and get involved, not only with the voice acting, but the specific way that the team and you had sort of designed this to be a more collaborative experience than normal, because even you just mentioned, you normally show up and you just get your lines and you do your thing and you're kind of out unless they need you back for different things. This process, what was sort of what was the creative sort of onus of what you were going for in doing a version of production that focused on this kind of collaboration?
I think that's for our producer.
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think a really big component of it is in order to bring the world into a game and bring it to life, it was really important that we had something that players could connect with. And the difference of being able to work with writers and voice actors throughout it, where we could share experiences, like knowing almost like what was going on in each other's like personal lives and connecting as people, not just as developers, meant when we had to talk about, do we go in this direction, do we go in that direction? I guess it would be the same as like talking about writing a book with a group of friends versus a group of strangers. We were able to tackle deeper topics and genuinely like argue about things. Like the ending of the game took a really long time to write and to figure out what direction we wanted to go into. And it's a lot easier to like agree or disagree about things when you really have that mutual respect. And I think that really helped us build a much more realistic world and much more realistic characters, because people could say, like any of the voice actors could say, like, I don't think this works or this doesn't feel right for the character. And because we brought them on early enough, we did multiple recording sessions. So it wasn't like, these are the lines, go, hope it works out. We recorded a second session after where we changed some lines or we added lines based on the characters and the way that they brought them to life to say like, oh, actually this makes a lot more sense. And so I think that was a really big part of it, to make it feel more authentic.
And then on sort of the flip side of that, like once you were both onboarded in your different and varying roles, like what kind of visibility or context were you given that surprised you? Again, coming from other projects that you've done, like what felt unique and what was sort of exciting about doing it this kind of way?
I think for me, it was they never hid what other stuff they were working on. Because a lot of times you're kind of sectioned off from other products that might be being made under the same umbrella, and you have to like have the gall to ask. Like, what else are you working on? What else can you bring me in for? I would be interested in learning how to do X, Y, or Z, or working on that product. And I never had that here. From the outset, Manu and the team were just like, this is a multimedia project. You know, we're going to try to have a TTRPG. There might be a comic book. What are you interested in? What kind of writing do you want to do? Where can we help you kind of like get your entrance into this industry? I was never treated like, well, this is what you are. And the reality with the entertainment industry is that happens a lot. And that's a warning I give to people, because oftentimes we're looking for work that will pay, because we have bills to pay, we have rent to pay. That's a very real reality. But sometimes it can stifle you because you find a backdoor where you think, okay, what if I get into this industry as a photographer and then I'm going to transition into talent? It is so hard to get people to see you as something other than what they first meet you as. And this was the first time I didn't have to deal with that. They weren't like, well, you're a TTRPG writer, so that's where you're going to live and that's where you're going to stay. It was very much like, well, here's all these other writing opportunities. We work well here. What's to say we wouldn't work well in these other mediums? And if it doesn't, then, then we'll readdress it. But they gave me a shot, and that, I have to say, that's really, really rare, because that almost never happens in like pen and paper RPGs or in video games.
Yeah, so for me, there's no NDA. There's still no NDA. I've managed not to ruin the game. Well done. You don't need to threaten people not to talk. It's fine. We know what the difference between a story spoiler and a studio spoiler is, but there we go. Instant access to the Discord. I can see what everyone's doing. I come say, I don't bother them, but I can see how the game's progressing. I can see the fact that they take on feedback. They take it very seriously, actually. Coming back to what you said about sessions, I think a lot of the time with what happened with the alpha was the lines were too long. So like you were done with that area, you were moving on, and I'm still talking. So we went back and split those lines up. And it's just, I know why I was doing that.
That was so hard.
I know why. I bet it was, because you had to rewrite it.
It was so difficult.
But for me, it reminded me of that openness, that lack of siloing reminded me of those early days of industrial light magic, because that's what it was. It was everyone in a workshop together, and you can see what everyone's doing. You're like, hang on, right? You're making that lightsaber. Guess what? I used to sword fight for years, right? Well, then maybe if you balance it like this, and everyone has knowledge that maybe, again, like you said, especially if you're doing different things to get into the industry, and people come from all sorts of walks of life, and rather than narrowing that down and siloing and get everyone in a room together and make it truly collaborative, and I think in lieu of being able to go to the office in Lyon, which I've also done, which again, unprecedented. Great to be able to see virtually what everybody's doing. I also had a consultation with Manu before we started about just the overarching story and where I fit in. And then I had a conversation with Anaïs Sorrento, who's the lead animator, that's right. And then I started to see how physically elastic this character is, and went, oh, okay, that's a different performance than I was going to do, because you tend to get me in for something quite grounded. This is wacky and anime for my character. Again, saving hundreds of dollars in a studio because, time is money and we haven't got time to discuss, it was all done outside of it. And then you've got the marketing side as well, which I've been involved with on social media. I mean, I'm proud of my work. Actors don't get paid to do that. I think that's a misconception as well. We are proud of the work we do. And because you've made it so joyful, funnily enough, want to be really involved in it. Who would have thought?
Yeah, who would have thought working on a piece of art and enjoying yourself would actually make a better piece of art?
And make you a bit of an evangelist.
Yeah, well, and that's sort of like, Jasmine, your comment as well about like going into a project and being only seen as a specific a cog in the machine, because that's nearly almost every, might even be every aspect of entertainment that I've ever been involved in. It's like, oh, you're the editor, well then that is your lane, you're doing this. Oh, you're the producer, etc. So this, and even from, I don't know how many of you have played the demo, which is available on Steam, but the way that it feels, you can actually, from an outsider's perspective, you can feel that collaboration like reverberate specifically with the way that the performances happen in the, like throughout when you're doing actions in the game. It all feels far more fluid and like it felt like everyone was on the same page, but also that you took your time in sort of getting there and working with each other. So that just like, it comes across in the actual performances as well, which I think is super strong for it.
I think the 2 rounds of voiceover help with that too, because when you're writing something, I always try to leave space for actors to put their mustard on it,
That's very French, thank you.
Le moutarde, if you're French and you're following along.
But so much of the like when we talk about like overwriting dialogue, so much of that happens because I think writers don't understand that the character comes to life the second the actor voices it, and you have to like give that space. You can't overwrite where they're like, gosh, I'm tired, too bad I work at, like some of that is just the delivery, and you have to have faith, and it's a trust fall that your actors are going to understand the character and put that in. And for me, that was figuring out cadence. So like you're talking about the beginning section, the tutorial section of the game, sometimes you write it because in your mind you're like, well, this is the pace I would read it at. Because I did all of the placeholder audio for it. We did a voiceover session.
Pretty good, actually. I'm surprised I got the job.
Wait, you listened to that? That was
like, so when I said,
okay, don't be open with people.
When I said they like opened it, I could see everything.
Oh my God. I
was
was assured nobody was going to hear that except for the development team.
I'm now the development team. for these purposes.
When you're doing the placeholder dialogue, you read things at a different pace, and then having a second round of VO, that really helped me as a writer to be able to come in and be like, yes, the pace is different, and so you clip lines and readjust them because you've been reading them in your cadence, in your head, alone in your room with your cat. And then you hear Sam's version, and you get to be like, okay, and kind of it
Okay,
was a
Sam's a bit
symbiotic-
slow. We're going to need to cut this up.
But I also-
people run around, don't
But
they?
I also changed
essentially?
some dialogue to
Yes,
like
you did.
fit like your version of one,
did,
which I
yeah.
liked more than my version of one. You know.
Did like especially in that like when a tutorial section is always so pacing
They're
wise.
miserable.
Yeah, but like also necessary, right?
Yeah,
like you have to get
completely.
people
It's
on
going to
board.
it's going to set everything up. It'll make that first impression, and people will either want to play more or they will want to play less.
Yeah, exactly. And so it felt very, in the best way possible, like everything came together as one unified element. And I'm wondering actually if the transparency from the beginning, specifically with the tutorial level, did you find that it was able to both help tutorializing the actual gameplay mechanics of the specific game, but also kind of getting the character on board, the audience on board with both of your characters' stories? Like, did you feel like the level of transparency even at the beginning of this process when you came on sort of fed into that? Was there a specific moment even that like played toward that goal?
Are you going to let me answer? I can just talk.
Go for
And
it.
it won't. I will literally make anything up if there's enough pressure. We had this alpha and it went out, and then they had to play the tutorial, and there was, mainly delight. People were really enjoying it. It's pretty unique, the way this is presented. But I guess when it came to feedback and implementing it, I feel there was no resistance. They just got on with it because, again, we're all on the same page. I also found out what a narrative designer does. You have to literally
Hugo,
stand next to them
if
and
you're
go,
out
it goes,
there-
but sometimes you have to see it. So I appreciated that.
We love you, Hugo.
We love
We
you,
do love
Hugo.
Hugo.
Hugo is my greatest friend and my biggest op.
Frenemies.
Yeah, frenemies, yeah. So a lot of people, when they just hear the word narrative, they think writing dialogue, which is kind of a misconception in game development, because your narrative designer helps you set up, their job is a lot more technical. Their job is to figure out where dialogue triggers, the order that it has to trigger for the player to make sense of the story. So they very actually seldom handle the actual dialogue itself at all, outside of deciding where it goes, where it triggers, what has to be cut, and the order it triggers in. Incredibly technical job. I could never do it. God bless Hugo. But to your point, Matt, like the transparency helped us get through the worst parts of it, because there are always parts of game dev that are incredibly frustrating, or you're on really short timelines, and like you're saying, when you're passionate about something, you fight sometimes. But because he was so transparent with his process and showing me his process, when he was like, hey, we have to cut 15 lines of dialogue, it didn't slam shut my laptop and tell him to go die, right? Like I understood better what about my job was making his job more difficult, and what about his job was making my job more difficult. And there was like a level of us meeting in the middle, because, when I'm close to tears and saying, well, if you cut all this, we just don't have a story left. Then he understands it's important to me, and he goes back to the people in charge in level design and says, we got to make this ramp bigger because she really wants this entire line to play. It's very important to her. And that doesn't happen in any kind of development. You don't get the amount of times like lines that are pivotal to like a story I've written, a short story I've written, or any piece just get cut. I don't ever get any say in that, ever. It just gets cut, and then the end user gets the product and is like, really would have liked to see that character develop more. And I'm like, me too, dog, me too. Really would have liked that more too. Unfortunately, an editor disagreed, and there's never any back and forth. But in our team, there is, and that transparency, maybe it's a little frictional in that sense because we know what everyone's working with. But I also think it's like it helps you kind of navigate that people are always acting in good faith. And every single person, like nobody wants to ship a bad video game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the misconception as well of just like it's the narrative team over there, the reason why it was so important to integrate that is also things like example of like lighting. We have a line that's going to be delivered and it's going to be like really dark and solemn. So where do we want that line to play? Well, maybe it makes more sense for it to be like in a more darkly lit environment, or maybe we're talking about like the water in the world, so we need to have more water in those scenery, or we're going to have this line. What is the player seeing when this line happens? And so having that transparency as well is also with the art team, like this is the mood we want, this is the kind of line we're going for. How can you create these environments that match that, and not like we made a game, now can you just put writing on it and let's hope that it works, so we can really feel the tone as a player, not just from the delivery of the line, but the actual world that you're in when it plays out.
And the artists get excited too. I know they influence lore. There was times I saw environmental design and I was influenced to then be like, what if we change this part of this world building to instead be this other thing? So it was all like cyclical. We were all kind of like going back and forth in this symbiotic relationship and influencing each other in a positive way.
Yeah. Is there like, I guess this question is for all of you in all of the different steps. Is there a specific element that the openness and the ability to basically talk through with everybody the processes that they're going about that would affect your performances? Is there a specific moment that you were like, I can't believe, I didn't even think that this choice would affect that element and got changed? Do you know what I mean? Like, is there a specific thing where the way a line was delivered, or maybe even the way a line was initially written, a change or a modification that you worked with the team ended up changing a piece of art direction, or a mechanic, the slight differentiation of like how quickly in the little water droplet you move, or like any specific kind of thing?
I'm trying to think. I know that I brought a little bit of, as Manu calls it, dirty Harry energy to Rain.
This is true. That's very accurate.
Yeah.
It's partly the hat.
Yes, she has like a really big iconic hat, and the energy I brought to the voice then turned her into this like very different character. Like I feel like her animation started to change, the way she moves started to change. Her idle animations changed to kind of match this sort of like cowboy gunslinger with a poncho vibe that I brought to it. And my favorite part is if you play the game, and I hope this isn't too big of a spoiler, you look at her idle animations, some of them are inspired by classical Indian dance. So she went from stretching like this to doing like classic Bharatanatyam stretches, because I was like, yeah, I feel like she fights with her fists. I don't think she fights with a sword. She's got a big hat, and when she plops her hat off, she's just she's like an Indian cowboy. And it was cool. It was cool to get those first like animations back and see it, and it was unreal. It was like an out-of-body experience to realize like how much Rain reflected me and how much I reflected Rain in a way.
Yeah, well, I guess for those animations, they didn't come from the art director. Like when the animator was like, how do I animate this character? Like, I don't know, ask Jasmine.
It was a
like,
Discord message, yeah.
Yeah, that's our writer.
So
like,
cool.
ask her. She knows what this character is meant to be. I think a really good example that sticks out to me is the character of Bob. So Bob is like the helper in the game. It's like the punching bag in the Bastion. So when you want to like test elements on the game, you test it on this character. And I remember this meeting where we were talking about this problem that we have in the game, that we want players to be able to test all these mechanics out in this central hub, but we don't really want to have like a separate room that's like the training room. We wanted to have a bit more fun with it. And so we brought it into our weekly narrative meeting to be like, this is a game design problem we have. What kind of creative ideas can we have? And when this character of Bob came up, like, yeah, it's going to be the character is called Bob, and like it's going to be this little French character that just like we can kill it and it comes back to life each time. We're like, well, that's ridiculous. So yeah, now it's one of our most favorite characters in the game. Like,
Oh, he's going to be the fan favorite.
yeah,
for sure.
he's hilarious, and I think that's the one that really stands out to me. Of
I
like,
put some deep lore behind Bob too.
Yeah.
Because I think Bob was an internal name.
yeah, we didn't change that.
And then I turned it into an acronym, and I hope you discovered that through play, but it became an official name shortly after that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that came as well, like I said, from that like safety and comfort we had to be like, we can throw out quote unquote stupid ideas or like things that doesn't seem like it would make sense. We had that safety with each other to be like, we can throw out whatever idea, and if it's not great, that's okay, let's move on. But it gave us a lot of freedom to be creative because we were happy to throw things out, and because you were so involved in the development process, I mean, like literally they're in our Discord. When we have plumbing issues, they know about it. Like it's very, you know.
I know that at their new office to celebrate, they got raclette, and the entire office reeked of cheese.
For days.
For days. I knew about that all the way in Seattle.
It permeated through the Discord.
Yep.
I think actually seeing the placeholder stuff at the beginning really helped me make my character more distinctive. And I feel that me playing one, that my mission is to embarrass you as much as possible, because Rain is such a badass and one is such a goofball at this point. I love the fact that in one's idle animation, she has a spear, she twirls and she just drops it all the time. So we have that in common. I've been doing that. If we have more games, and I hope we have more games, I'm going to have to up my my game on that and learn how to twirl a baton or something, because that's, it's scarily accurate. But to actually answer your question, the openness enabled me to do my best work, which is what I want to do, right? Because I'm aware of Bob and I'm aware of Raina and I'm aware where I fit in. I know how I move, all of that. That saves all that time in the studio, and then we can experiment a little bit more.
Yeah. Is there something in... is there sort of a wall you found, and not in any specific project, just throughout your careers, that when working on a project that doesn't work like this, basically working on something that is more normal, I guess the more traditionally produced, and again, I cannot stress enough how wonderful and different this production style is in the industry. It is insane in the most beautiful way. Is there something that you didn't even realize was a friction point in the general work that you do, that here you're like, I'm bracing for it, oh, that didn't happen? Like, is there like or even on the production side too, like?
I think like how it's marketed. In development, you're very seldom like privy to how your product is going to be marketed. So oftentimes it's not reflective of what you actually did. It's reflective of what they tested with a group of consultants and thought was going to sell the best. And that sucks, because then when people are like, the trailer doesn't really match the game, that's kind of how that happens, because one trailer tested better, even if it was not reflective of what what you made. And it wasn't until like I executive produced my own TTRPG, This Quest, that I was ever allowed to like supervise and make notes on an edit or a trailer, which is wild, because as a dungeon master, you're so often like the sort of like showrunner, director, visionary of a show, but yet you get no say on how it's cut together. And I'm a firm believer that the edit changes everything. The edit can take a comedy into a horror, or into a tragedy. It's all editing and pacing. And so getting the trailers before you dropped them, asking if the dialogue was reflective of what would be in what was actually in the game, of the vibe of the game. That was technically out of my lane as a writer, but I was allowed to see all those materials. I was allowed to be like, I don't think this character would say that. I don't think this tone is the tone of our game. And I remember to this day being like, yeah, all these characters cuss, because when I came in, I was told they could. And if we try to do a PG trailer that doesn't match what the game actually is, where we drop like 4 F-bombs, it's all gotta go together. And that was a friction point I was bracing for, was the trailers and the marketing and not reflecting like what we actually worked on in the game.
Yeah, I think from a production perspective, where I was sometimes worried in advance is making it more collaborative. That's kind of the idea of like too many cooks in the kitchen. And that was the part I was sometimes anxious about. Like we said before, like combining narrative and environment art, like who wins? Who gets the final say in that? I was worried that that would cause more tension, but honestly it went the other way. Like everyone was just so excited to be in that collaborative process and respected each other enough to be like, it's not about winning the argument. It's not my idea versus your idea. It's like what's gonna make the coolest game, because that's what we wanna make. So I think that was the part that I was like kind of like bracing myself for, being like, oh God, please don't go wrong.
And when we did have friction, I feel like Dad always stepped in, Sylvan, to kind of like arbitrate and explain like the overall vision of the game and be like, yes, this is important, but this is like lower on the priority list than this other thing that is also important. But yeah, I feel like we navigated the conflict pretty well.
Is there, in those sort of moments, is there some internal vernacular or system or something other than just sitting down and discussing with folks for as long as you're able? Because obviously, there's schedules and deadlines and things, so things can't cook forever. Is there is there a sort of like process, either an intrinsic process that was planned from the beginning of like, well, here's how if we have disagreements, we're going to sort of try to get past them, or one that you actually found and you just sort of fell into a comfort zone because everyone was on this, like talking at the same page?
My coping mechanism was Elise.
That's so sweet. We just met in person for the first time yesterday or this morning. Yeah, today, after 2.5 years of working together. So that was very, very nice. Yeah, I mean, as the producer, I'm responsible for the budget and the timeline for the project. So I knew when deadlines had to be hit. And my, I guess, approach is usually to be hands-off where I can. So I guess the process was to not get too involved. Like, it's a bunch of creative people who don't want to hear about the deadlines over and over. And so it often is better, like, throw you both in a room for an hour, come up with a solution. Like, I trust you to figure out the answer, instead of me like threatening you and saying like, well, if you don't come up with something by 5 o'clock, then I'm just going to make the choice. That's like my last option, last resort possible. But I think a big part of it is being transparent about those deadlines ahead of time. The stress comes when you're trying to be creative and collaborative, and then I just come into the room being like, well, you have 10 minutes, so good luck. So being ahead of schedule for things like that and just saying, look, by the end of this month or by this period of time, we need to have these kinds of things resolved. We need to hit these deadlines in order to finish the project. Here's a heads up. If you feel like we're getting closer to that deadline and we're still not making the decisions, or we still don't know where we're going, let me know. Like, I'll jump back in, we'll figure out this problem together. But I think a really big part is just like putting trust in the team. Like, we're all adults and we are here to do our own job, so I'm not going to tell you how to do it. Yeah, I think that was a big part of the process.
I think moving forward in good faith also helps. And I definitely messed up a few times when I first started. And I think like when we did the first vertical slice, there was no dialogue in it. Somebody else had to like panic write dialogue because I didn't understand what the deadline was. And there was a lot of teething problems for me because it was the first video game I ever worked on. But they never came in like, hey, you missed a deadline, you're in trouble. It was like, we know you want to do this, so why? And that's when I was like, I'm new. I've never made a game before, and I don't know how any of this works, and I think I'm not understanding. And I remember we all stopped down and it was like, you're right, a lot of things that we take as like, oh, this is knowledge everyone knows, she doesn't know this. And I remember the day, there's this horrible thing called Jira, if you ever get into game development.
It's wonderful.
It's everywhere, it's not just in game dev.
I didn't know what this shit was.
It's wonderful.
So when it was like, are these things done? And I was like, yes. And it's like, why isn't your Jira updated? I'm like, what language are you speaking? French. And why do I have to open this horrible website and do this? I never updated the Jira, even though poor Elise did give me a full tutorial. But what she did was just send me a Discord message. I would say all of these things are done. And then Elise would update the Jira.
Damn.
Because I remember being like, opening this gives me a panic attack. Please don't make me open this ever again.
I mean, realistically, I just need the job done. However you do it, I'm happy with, right? Like, I'm happy if we have amazing writing in our game and I had to move Jiras, like, I did not do the hard work there at all, so.
I want to live a Jira-free existence, guys. I'm so simple. I'm such a simple person.
Well, it seems like you've achieved that. In about 5 to 7 minutes, we're going to open up the floor just so everyone knows for Q&A. If you have some questions here, you can start lining up at either of the mic and we'll ping pong back and forth. I have a few more of my own before we actually get there, but I wanted to give everyone a heads up to think of questions if you have some for everyone up here. So obviously you both mentioned that this was the first time you two had met in person. Had you met?
I met you before.
Yes.
2 years ago at PAX, and I was invited to the studio in Lyon. Another first. Normally, the game has to be a success. Well, and after awards season, then you might meet the team.
But you got to do it pretty much
yeah,
upfront.
Yeah. After the first recording, wasn't it? It wasn't before. Might have been before.
Yeah, before.
It was before.
I think it was before, so you could meet the team, and so we could all like get to know you. And like, when we say like on Thursday we're going for a shoof, you need to know what that tastes like, so you know the experiences we're going through. Like,
unfortunately, I've had but you know what? I've actually been quite serious, and obviously my role has been more observant than yours because you're in it every day. There's a distinct lack of egos at this company. It is at a fundamental level. It is the hierarchy's a lot lot flatter than I've been witness to, both in micro indie and AAA. And when you have that solid foundation, when the best example of a way of working is coming from the top, then that's always going to trickle down. And people seem happy that, again, I'm an outsider. I don't want to go, oh yeah, everyone's happy there, it's great. I went for a couple of days. From what I observed, people seem very happy. They did their usual presentations and updates and everything, and they get along together beautifully. They eat rather well, but this is Lyon we're talking about, so that shouldn't be a surprise. But yeah, the fact that there was discussion if you miss a deadline, rather than feeling you got in trouble or you're walking on thin ice, and it's that psychological safety, not being frightened to speak up. But that's where you're always going to get the best collaborations, no matter what industry you're in. So it's a rather wonderful thing to be lucky enough to have been asked to do, because that's it's opportunity and luck as well as your skill. But one thing I have noticed is that sorry if I'm jumping ahead or
no,
I haven't
please.
seen your questions,
Yeah.
but it's already affecting other companies.
Yeah.
I'm working for I've just started working on it's a demo for a new indie formed of former AAA developers who are inspired by this company. They've been watching everything and they're going, we want to do that. And I think part of that is getting rid of the myth of the solo dev as well. Mm-hmm. The fact that we're up here and it's not Sylvain and Manu, which would be traditional. And then you would wonder what the team looks like. We're already starting to know what the team looks like. If you follow social media, you will see what the team looks like and what they do. And it's rather wonderful. And I hope this catches on.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that you got to see in person as well when you visited is we have milestone reviews every 2 or 3 weeks where every single member of the team comes up and shows off their work to the rest of the team. And I think you really get a sense of our dynamic together. Yeah. Someone just says the word optimization and it's like a round of applause echoing.
I was going to say, it's so celebratory. It was so supportive and celebratory. It was rather wonderful. I've worked in tech as well, so I've had to do the stand-ups and the retrospectives and all of that, and I've never seen anything like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to fake you coming through the office and we're all sitting at our desks smiling yes, I have a great time here, I love my job, but the milestone reviews and those kinds of things
and the social, I mean we went out and socialized, it's people can't keep that guard up that long if they're pretending.
A few beers in,
a
you see
few
your
beers
real
in,
us, right?
a few shoots in.
Yeah, and I think that was a really big part of it as well, and we got so many pep talks because when you were coming into the office, everyone's like, what do I do? What do I say? What can I say? What can I not say? And everyone's like, just
Sam is
chill.
terrifying, so you need to behave.
Well, no, I mean...
Sam will flip a table.
Or at least try and flip a stick, maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, just get them flipping a stick, then they're screwed.
And record it on social media, please. But even just that idea that we've always been told, like what you said, try not to have egos, they don't have egos, don't treat people differently. It's a normal day at the office. One of our actors is going to be here, and it's going to be great, and you're all going to get to meet them and get to know the character a little bit better, and it'll inspire all of you. But it was a really big thing at the beginning to be please don't feel like you have to fake it. Don't pretend like this isn't what it is. Just be yourselves, be your happy selves at work, show off your work. I mean, you came around even off camera to every single person in the office, sat down and was like, so what's your job? What do you do? And I know some team members were really nervous about it, but it calmed down really quickly. And I think
when they realized I wasn't actually judging or
when they
actually want to know what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, just because you weren't there, it wasn't a 2-hour walkthrough of the office, everyone's hair was cleaned up with makeup before. It was a few days in the office. So it's like you said, we can't hide that. It's just who we are. It's the way that the office works. And I think it
was so
helped
cool.
a lot. Yeah.
And my request when we get the sequel is, can we have a recording studio as part of the new one so we can actually be in there? And then also, if you're going to put people in rooms to work it out together, please call it the Thunderdome.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll make a cheer
my
up for
request.
that. 2 devs enter, 1 dev
Two devs also leave.
Two devs also leave.
I think that was the original cut for Mad Max 3, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think
had to
so.
shorten it down a bit.
Now you know that the game ends a little bit on a dark note because Jasmine wrote it.
Oh! Yeah, no, it does end on a little bit of a dark note. To that point, though, I think that spirit of not looking down on people or not deciding who they are and what they're capable of does trickle down into everything. And I even working with my editor, Coin Plant, you're a real one, thank you so much. Sometimes I'll pass my ideas by them. And when they're like, I'm really excited for this new format, we're going to do video essays, it's because I treat them as a co-collaborator. I'm not edit, sit in your chair and edit my bad content and upload it to YouTube. Arr, I pay you. But I think, but as a content creator, I'm going to be real with you. A lot of content creators are like that. They're like, get back to editing, slave. And they think that because they pay you that you don't, like, you have no creativity or that's who you are. But the reality is if like you talk to people that you work with and you don't view them as just an editor, just a thumbnail artist, just a graphic designer, just an illustrator, what comes from that is you can really find out what they're passionate about, what they want to work on, and what they're excited about. And sometimes it influences what you're making, and you make a better product when you do that, and you're just happier.
I'm really happy to see not only this project doing this style, but also that it has the legs to start hopefully catching on to other places. Because again, coming from the YouTube side of things, that is something that sort of at Extra History and Extra Credits we kind of pride ourselves on as well. Like, animators will come to us specifically with, oh, well, this part of the script, actually, I read this thing in here, can you check this to make sure that's right? And we kind of go back and forth. And there is an intrinsic level of not only trust that you build over time, which is obviously helpful to have, but also like when you are putting together your team and when you get everyone on board, finding the people that you can make this process work with. It's essentially like, it's like the best kind of casting director, but not just for the actors, for the entire project. And to see that sort of moving into this medium that traditionally has not gotten to see that, and a medium that I love very much, is very sort of, I don't know, inspiring and lovely, and I'm very happy that this sort of moved in this direction and that you've gotten to essentially, I would say, kind of pioneer a more collaborative thing that will make the art at the end of the day better. All of that said, have there been any actual points where you're like, you know what? Like, is this ever so slightly more difficult? And if it is, does it still feel worth it to get through that at the end? I know I have, in my experience, hit those things. I'm curious if you have as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very real cost of getting to know people, which is that we're human, and there's difficult things. I mean, like what you said before, of like if deadlines don't get reached or anything, it's, as a producer, and I've met a lot of, you know, I worked in AAA before, and I saw the dark side of it, and I mean, it looks really easy to just not care about people and just be like, I care about the deadlines, I care about the budgets, that's all that matters, it's the final product. So I'm not gonna lie and say like being a human is easy. It's more difficult that way because, you know, someone misses a deadline and someone says, actually, you know, this person got a cold last week, or, you know, their cat is sick, or whatever it is, and you have to take that into account. And I think that, I mean, very honestly, is more difficult because you have to take into account a lot more than just what the deadline is and what a technical blocker is. It's also what the human blockers are. And so I think that is quite difficult, but I agree that it makes a better product at the end, but it's tough. And, you know, as a producer in the studio as well, like, I do feel like I take on a lot of the personal problems of people, which I'm happy to do, but it is, yeah, it's draining at times, and sometimes it means you don't have space for maybe your own problems or things that you're going through in your own life because you're having to not carry everyone else's, because I don't think we've ever, as a team, put that on each other, but you want to be, you know, understanding and empathetic towards other people while still trying to put your own concerns and your own needs forward, and I think that's always a difficult balance.
Yeah, I think there's, like, it does become difficult sometimes, because as much as I've said, no one ever told me to stay in my lane, I've absolutely been in the boat where I've wanted to tell somebody else, how about you get the fuck back in your lane? And it's something I struggled with, because it's one of those things where you envision the game differently than someone else does. And so when it's like, no one really cares about this dialogue here because they're rushing to get in the fight, I'm like, well, you worked on the fight, so you're going to say that. And I worked on the dialogue, so I actually think that this one is really
To the
important.
Thunderdome.
You know?
And both of you leave.
Crack your knuckles.
Alive.
Tristan! No, just kidding. I love Tristan. But there's moments where, like, you, and the way you resolve it, even if it does slow things down a little, because I'm not going to say it doesn't, isn't by saying, well, that's not your job, that's someone else's job, and their job is more important than yours. It's by coming together in a Zoom call at 6 a.m. in the morning for me, which is the only time we can make it work.
You've been such a champ on that, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, basically the studio in Lyon would stay late, and I would wake up an hour early, which was great until daylight savings, which I don't believe in, personally.
Yeah.
They should just abolish that, because that was the only time it was way too early in the morning. But you get together and you just remember that same mantra that you start with, which is that we all want to make a good game. And so even if they're like, well, this part slows down here, and me and environment design are like, yeah, because we want you to slow down and fucking look at it, bro. It can't just be zoom, 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 dishum, dishum, dishum. We want you to slow down and look at the things we spent time making. Even if it slows stuff down, having that same core of like, but he wants to make a good game. I want to make a good game. And you usually do resolve it. But I'm not going to say it's easy. But I think the cost you pay is worth what you get out of it.
Well, we have about 10 minutes left. If anyone has any questions, please move yourselves to the microphones, and I will call on as many people as possible.
I think we've got 2, haven't we?
Look at this. Yeah, 2. We're going to go back and forth. We're going to start with this, I guess, on my left in the Aperture shirt. Hello.
Thank you. Hello. You mentioned that you do stand-ups with like the whole company. How many people are in your company, and how many more hands do you feel like have been on your work than like in previous projects?
So within the office, we're 15 to 16 people, more or less. Just to be clear, I don't do daily stand-ups because I don't want to listen to everyone talk about what they're doing every single day. We have, sorry, that sounds really...
You're a real one. We all appreciate
that.
I was like, I never went to a daily stand-up.
So we have stand-ups within each team, and the leads report back to me just in case there's any issues. What we do is a milestone review. So at the end of every 3 weeks, and like we provide breakfast for everyone. It's like really, we take an entire morning off. It's a celebration. It's like, let us stop and just talk about how cool our game is and like how much cool progress we're making, because it is really easy to like lose track of the final product. So it alternates. I mean, we bring people from the publishing side as well to join us because we want to know what they're doing as well, and whenever we can bring in other guests, we try and do that. But I would say like 15 to 20 people is like the most that we've had in those meetings.
It was one of my favorite things I got to do, actually, was presenting my story to the entire team. So that was fun.
Nice.
Thank you.
Let's jump to the other mic over here.
Hello. First of all, screw the daylight savings time.
Yeah, seriously.
I know this is going to sound like a job interview question, but I actually genuinely want to know the answer. During the development process, did you find anybody who felt like they were being passed over or weren't involved in the collaboration enough? And if so, how did you fix it? Because I assume you did fix it, or if it happened at all.
I can speak to some of it. I think Sam and I have always had we've had a pretty good relationship. We have a pretty good friendship.
So.
And so when Sam was like, I don't want to just act on this, I want to be involved and tapped for these other opportunities, it just took one email and it happened. It was like I think their first reaction was like, they're willing to just be a part of marketing and help with marketing for free? And I was like, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so what I'm used to is being laughed out of the room. And you go, but they go, no, we're fine. And I go, okay. And I remember asking them if I could have the plushie. I was like, well, I'm going to Lanzarote. And like, we got a game that has some environmental themes. Like, let's just have one on holiday. She did fall over from having some cocktails. But they'll just take that. I mean, whether or not they use that, that's up to them. But, there's feeling part of making that content and being part of it. It's been really cool. And it means I talk about it all the time. You would think companies would want this.
Yeah, I think being really comfortable with the answer of no was a really big component of it. Like, we would rather ask and you say no, and that's totally fine. And people are happy. Like, people do say no at times. But it's like, well, you don't know unless you ask. And I think our approach as a company in a lot of ways is like, let's not just shut a door on ourselves. Like, let's open as many doors as we can, ask as many questions, see what people are interested in. I mean, when you visited the office, the marketing team sent like, here are the things we're thinking of doing. What do you think? What sounds fun? What sounds not fun? Because if you just come in, we're like, stand there and do this action, it's not going to feel fun. You're not going to have a good time. We're not going to have a good time. So, I mean, I hope not. If the team is watching and you felt left out, please let me know. I will fix it, I promise.
There we go. All right, right back here.
It seems like an incredibly intentional decision to have this really collaborative, almost like ensemble process. Can you give a little bit more of the background about like how early on was that a decision for the organization that that was going to be the approach for this project?
The beginning. I mean, one of the founders of the company is the creator of the IP, who also comes to the office all the time. Like mentioned before, we really don't have hierarchy in the company. Of course, when we have business decisions to make, and in that regard, of course we do. But I mean, we'll be in a meeting, and everyone's voice is equal. So I would really say it's from the beginning, because the creator of the IP originally works in the company and was really personally invested in sourcing each person for the right role. So, yeah.
Yeah, they would all come to our little weekly narrative meetings. You know, even the studio head, it was never like, oh, this is like really far below me. So I always felt like it was, it was more, you used a really good word for it, and I can't think of the word now.
Flat hierarchy?
Yeah, it was more of a flat hierarchy. It wasn't like, I'm not going to go to the narrative meeting, that's not important.
Yeah, it was also like, I'm not there to tell you about the budgets, like in the narrative meeting. Like, we're here to talk about narrative. It's not, you're here to talk about it from a writing, someone's here to talk about it on a design problem or a production. It's like, we're here to talk about narrative and like how we get the best product, so yeah.
Nice.
Thank
Jumping
you.
back.
All right. So what is a lesson you've learned during the development of Fading Echo that you would hope to take with you to future projects?
Well, I hope this is a resounding success and I can go see. Have me as part of not only the project, but as the development team, is the very smug answer that I'm going to give.
Yeah, I think I really learned. I'd never seen in a job, like, you know, when we're being told that this is the caliber of actors and writers that we're working with, I was like, what, how? Like, why is this reality? And I think that was the lesson I really took. Like, don't close the door on myself. Don't assume, like, I don't get to hold that space to talk to this person and say, like, hey, do you want to come work on this project? I got told by a director very early on in my career, is like, always ask the question, just be prepared for the answer to be no. And I think that really helped, to be like, it's okay for someone to say no, but 1 in every 10 times someone's going to say yes, and something magical is going to happen. And like I said, I've been in this industry for quite a while. I've worked on a lot of games, and it really does feel like, yeah, I got a lot of no's, and this time we got a lot of yeses, and it comes together in something really magical.
I think the lesson I learned from Fading Echo that I'm going to take forward is you have to come forward with honesty and a why. And so if you don't have a big budget for a project and you're reaching out to somebody that you think is famous, you need to let them know why you're reaching out to them. I think that it makes it personal. If you're so transparent about, this is what our budget is, this is what we can do with it, we're a small indie studio, this is the scope of what we can do. We're reaching out to you because we really like your work here, here, and here, and we just feel like it would be a good fit. As somebody who's read those emails and written those emails, it lands different. You don't feel like you're being taken advantage of. You don't feel like you're being underpaid. You can then decide the level of your involvement. So I think if you're working on a project that has a little budget or has a low budget or doesn't have all the resources, coming forward with honesty and earnestness, not earnesty. That should be a word, though.
It is now.
Yeah.
It just gets you so much further than trying to, I guess, like big time people or make your project look more impressive than it is, because you're probably just going to sound like you're trying to take advantage of people.
Nice. Jumping over here.
What would you say to people who are working on an indie game but with a smaller team?
Oh, smaller than 15, huh? I'm going to...
Yeah.
I mean, I worked in a studio with 7 people for a couple of years, and I mean, everyone has to be a generalist. As a producer, I've done UI programming, I've done UI design, I design prints. In the past, I've done T-shirts, marketing assets, game design features, whatever is needed. So I think that's the biggest thing, is like, be a generalist. Don't be afraid to try something. I'm definitely not the best in a lot of areas, but as an example, I've made the achievement and trophy icons for like almost every game I've worked on, because no one else wants to do it. And it's like, yeah, they're not the best, but otherwise they just wouldn't get done. And I think being able to not have shame in your work and just say, like, look, I'm going to try. Maybe it won't be the best, and then someone else will redo it. But that's okay. I gave it a shot, and maybe you'll find like hidden talents that you didn't know you had.
Yeah. That's such a great answer. I love it.
Let's jump over here.
Hi. You've talked a lot about promoting a collaborative spirit across the team, and like you mentioned, like a flat hierarchy. How do you envision or hope that this collaborative spirit grows across the industry in a way that isn't mutated by selfish goals, be it companies or individuals?
Well, I think, like, to quote Matthew Mercer, who's a wonderful, friend and one of the talents on our team, you have to hold on gently, and you have to hope other people will hold on gently as well. And I think sometimes problematic people are often given the label of visionary, and really what it is they think they've got some kind of grand idea and everyone else is just a tool to make that come to life. And I think that is something we have to start calling out and working around. You have to be willing to listen to other perspectives. You have to be, and I hope that spreads. I really hope it does, because I think sometimes, even amongst writers who are like supervising the voiceover, it's too heavy of a hand, and you have to give space to the performer who's bringing it to life to put their mustard on it. I think the whole visionary perfectionist, I think it's a problem sometimes, if I'm being honest, and I think that's what we're up against.
Yeah.
And then
I don't know if that answers your question.
We got time for one more real quick right here.
Yeah. It's just lack of ego. If you can put a team together that doesn't have that, it's going to solve a lot of problems.
Yeah.
What would you say was your favorite part about working on this project?
Oh, gosh.
They're sitting right next to me.
Stop! There's too many to name. I mean, I think we've gone through them, to be fair. I'm not going to name a favorite, but it's just, long may it continue, and I hope it continues into the industry, that you can make a successful game when people are happy.
Yeah. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us for this lovely time. Thank all our lovely panelists right here. I'm going to put out there that they can stop by the Fading Echo booth if they want to chat and have more questions, anything about that. And please enjoy the rest of your PAX. Thank your enforcers, and have a great day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.